Hey there, Facebook. Good morning. Welcome to your Infinity Wellness Minute. It's Dr. Danny here at Infinity Wellness Center. Coming to you live from Austin. Give everybody a chance to kind of join in here for a second. Let me know how the sound is as you come in. Actually, gonna fix this light real quick. There we go. One more time. That way I'm not quite as blinded. All right. Well, as you know, we do Infinity Wellness Minutes at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays. So go ahead and share this with your friends, share it on your page. Go ahead and give us a like, a love, if you happen to love it. And today we're talking about adrenal fatigue, adrenal stress, right? So all the things that come along with that. This whole month we're going to be talking about chronic fatigue. So last week Dr. Tanisha talked about some causes of chronic fatigue. Today, this week, we'll be talking about more specifically adrenal fatigue and how that plays into being tired all the time and chronic fatigue. So hope you don't get tired of it. All right. Like I said, kind of give some people time to roll in here. Ask questions. Like I said, share this with your friends and family. And like I said, we will go ahead and get started. So, how many people? I guess we'll kind of relate to the following or know people that are pretty much the following, right? So kind of the story here is you wake up, you're kind of half dead, half zombie-like, or full zombie for some of those. Rely on a lot of caffeine, coffee in the morning to kind of get up and going. So it's not just one cup in the morning, but maybe like one pot, or maybe like the whole thermos. So then you finally start to get up and get going, get energy, and day gets going, right? Then all of a sudden, right around lunchtime, kind of right after lunch, you get like a little bit of a crash, right? So around 2 o'clock, feeling a little bit groggy, maybe even resort to snacking on some sugary foods or going back to caffeine, right? So then kind of get like a little pick back up in the evening a little bit, but then after dinner, kind of hitting some more fatigue, energy crashes again, and then, but guess what? Nighttime comes, you go to lay in bed, you can't go to sleep, right? So then, what happens when you're laying in bed, can't go to sleep? You just kind of, let's pull out the phone, start scrolling through Facebook, start scrolling through, Netflix on the TV, so more screens, more things like that, just keeping you awake longer, right? And then finally do get to sleep and crash out, maybe the lights are still on, the TV's on, and then you wake up the next morning, kind of halfway asleep, half zombie-like, and we start the process all over again, right? That is adrenal fatigue outlined. I think that's just the classic case of adrenals crashed, with you kind of an inverted cortisol spike, and things are just completely opposite of the way that we should be, which is waking up in the morning feeling energized and then kind of slowly kind of degrading energy throughout the day, and then winding down and being able to go to sleep at night. All right. So people suffering with adrenal fatigue usually have problems with weight loss, not really gaining weight so much, but just the kind of the midsection body fat, not really going away. So just really holding weight. All right. Fatigue, brain fog, lightheadedness. So especially upon standing. So if you go from sitting or laying down and standing up too fast, you kind of get a little dizzy, a little lightheaded, maybe see some sparkly spots. That's classic adrenal stress, right? So sleep problems, not being able to go to sleep, but then also waking up in the middle of the night multiple times. So that's also some more signs and symptoms there. Also sweet and salty cravings, right? So aside from just wanting a little snack, if you got extreme sweet or salty cravings, that could be other things, but it is very associated with adrenal fatigue. So adrenals love salt. Also moodiness, irritability, especially between meals, just kind of get that hangry thing going on, and then depression and low libido, right? So all these things are going to come about when the adrenals or can come about when the adrenals are stressed. So let's take a look at what's going on. So the adrenal glands, if you don't know, are these tiny little endocrine glands. Endocrine just means they produce hormones. They're about the size of your thumb, and just like kind of the tip of your thumb. and they sit on top of your kidneys, right? So kidneys are also referred to renal. Adrenal glands are suprarenal, or above the kidneys, so they sit on top of the kidneys. They produce hormones. They produce over 50 hormones, but some of the most common ones are cortisol, which relates with stress, metabolism, and blood sugar. Also aldosterone, which is related in blood pressure, excuse me, and then sex hormones, so estrogen and testosterone. So those are kind of the main hormones that the adrenals deal with, right? So kind of looking at where things can go wrong. So cholesterol are the main building blocks of all hormones. Cholesterol comes down to this thing called pregnenolone, and from there it kind of goes into our 3 different pathways in our adrenal glands to make hormones, right? So those 3 different pathways are mineral corticoids, which is aldosterone. That's where that one falls under. Cortisol, that's the stress response hormone, and then sex hormones. Okay, so if you're constantly driving the middle pathway, cortisol, from that pregnenolone, you're not getting the other things going to those other 2 pathways. So you're stealing the cofactors, or you're stealing the building blocks to drive cortisol, and not letting things go to aldosterone or your mineral corticoids, or estrogen and testosterone in your sex hormones, right? So then all of a sudden, it's called a pregnenolone steal, and then you're stealing everything from the other hormones being made. All right. So why me? Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to my loved one or my friend or patients? Right. A lot of the it's just a stress response. A lot of the society today is we're just constantly in a high stress environment, and stress is good, and the response to stress is good, but we're not meant to be in stress 100% of the time, or for a majority of the time, right? So and stress is all the same to the body, right? So if it's the lion jumps out, that's how we're, that's a good stress response. We're supposed to either fight the lion or run from the lion, but we're not constantly supposed to be, getting hit by that. So, the tax man, running from the tax man, running from, the guy that cut you off, or all those stressful things, work, home life, just, negative self-talk. So it's all stress to the body, and the body has the same reaction. And we're just not meant to be in a stressful situation, right? So that's prolonged stress. Even a big stressful event like a death of a loved one, a divorce, a surgery, a big move, things like that can really set off the stress response as well. Negative self-talk, we can already talked about. Emotional trauma, lack of sleep, that can start kind of to wind up the adrenal stress response. Poor diet and glucose intolerance, right? So have keep hitting the blood sugar, or just have a really poor diet, not getting minerals and things like that that are the building blocks of these hormones, and then you're going to start to have adrenal stress. So that winds all up. Pain, of course, can cause stress. Food sensitivities, right? So the list keeps going on. And most commonly I see, a lot of it is just kind of, people self-medicating with caffeine. So too many stimulants, too much sodas and things like that. One in the morning, or one every once in a while isn't bad if you're not having a problem with this sort of thing, but really trying to stay away from all that. So looking at more, I was reading a study, actually I came across this, was adrenal fatigue and osteoporosis. So they were actually kind of relating that to having brittle and weaker bones later on in life if you're constantly under stress. As we talked about, the cortisol pathway is not only taken from sex hormones, it's taken from the mineral corticoids. One of the mineral corticoids is aldosterone, like we said, but then it steals the cofactors and building blocks, and specifically sodium and potassium, right? So sodium and potassium especially potassium is it plays a role in the blood to keep calcium and phosphorus from getting away. So in turn it makes a stronger bone, right? So when we're constantly driving the cortisol pathway, we're not keeping the calcium and phosphorus around, and it's getting out, and then all of a sudden, well, we're not putting that back in the bone, then we have brittle bones. So it's kind of, they didn't directly relate it yet, so they're still doing some studies and things, but it was interesting that they were like, long-term effects. This could be a contributing factor to what's going on with that bone density. So pretty interesting stuff there. So here at the office, how do we treat for stress, or how do we test for stress? We look at Ragland's test, so a couple really good inexpensive tests. There's a Ragland's test, which is just orthostatic hypotension. And we just basically laying to standing, we take your blood pressure laying, and then we take your blood pressure standing, and look and see how the changes are. So a good healthy adrenal response is a rise in blood pressure, a good 8 to 12 points on the systolic, which is the top number. And so a good 8 to 12 point raise on that from laying to standing is a good adrenal response. So from there, if we don't get a good 8 to 12 points or even a drop in blood pressure, it's just a sign for adrenal stress and adrenal fatigue. Hey, good morning, Jennifer. How are you? I want to check the volume, make sure everything's all right. You can hear me? Good. So that's just a cheap test. Just all you need is a blood pressure cuff, and the symptom that you're going to feel from that, if that is happening, is a lightheadedness or dizziness, or kind of the tunnel vision, kind of getting dark, and getting kind of a see flashes and things like that. So that's the symptom you're going to feel from this happening. Okay. Another really cheap test. You just need a light, a little pin light, and it's called pupillary constriction. And you're just going to shine a light in one eye and watch that eye, watch the pupil constrict, and we should get a nice 30-second hold. Hey, good morning, Tanisha. Good morning, Coy. How are you? So we're talking about adrenal fatigue, and this is one of the cheap tests that we do here in the office, just to look at how the adrenal's functioning. So the pupillary test, you shine a light in the eye, the pupil constricts, and we should get a 30-second hold, right? So if the pupil starts to redilate, or even kind of bounce back and forth between trying to hold and redilating and trying to constrict and all that stuff, that's a sign of adrenal stress. So the faster it happens, the bigger problem that we have, or the more stress that those adrenals are under. Okay. We also have a couple labs for adrenals. One is just blood labs. We have, how you doing? Koi, everybody. Koi's my mama, so welcome her. So I just wanted to say good morning to you. And so the adrenal stress index, blood labs is just looking at some blood markers. There's some different markers in our blood work that we do that kind of hint and show what the adrenals are doing. And then also a really specific test for the adrenals is a adrenal stress index, or a 24-hour saliva test. And what that is, we're just taking saliva tubes, and we're kind of taking saliva tests at intermittent variables along the day. So just you kind of have to wake up at night and see how that is at night. But then they send it in. They test your cortisol and DHA in the saliva, and they send us back, and kind of they'll put you in either a normal, an alarmed, a resistance, or an exhausted phase. And that's just kind of how your adrenals handle stress and where they are in that response phase. We test in saliva because it is we get a better result for the actual free circulating hormones that we're testing for, right? And those are the ones that are active. Okay. So how do we support the adrenals? So kind of support adrenals in three ways. We look at things emotionally, physically, and then chemically, right? So emotionally, just having a healthy stress outlet, so being able to deal with stress, either just being mindful of your stress, meditation, yoga, tai chi, things like that, just breathing exercises, kind of focusing on breath and heart rate, and just kind of being able to do that and not having that stress response hit you as hard, right? So just good ways to deal with stress, to emotionally support the adrenal glands. Physically, here in the office, we are chiropractors, so we like to physically take care of everything. The way that the adrenal glands talk to the brain is through the spinal cord, and especially kind of right through here in the mid-back. There's some nerves that come out of the spine there, and if there's inflammation or misalignments in the spine there, It causes some irritation, and then all of a sudden we're not getting 100% of communication between the brain and the adrenal glands. So we just want to make sure that the talk between the brain and the adrenal glands and the nervous system is all connected, and that we're having 100% communication, right? So physically supporting with adjusting, we want to physically support the adrenal glands through a high intensity interval training. That's just going to really help change that cortisol spike back to the morning if it is inverted, or if we're having a kind of a resistance phase part of the ASI index, right? So that's going to help switch that back. All right, so just high intensity exercise, nothing outrageous. You don't need to be doing it every day. Just 20 minutes, 2 or 3 times a week, and that's really going to do a lot. And then the other physical things to do to support the adrenal glands is rest, right? So we just don't want to always be going, right? So we want to kind of rest, make sure that we're getting good sleep so that we're healing and restoring, right? And then chemically supporting the adrenal glands, we're talking about just diet, right? So that's avoiding inflammatory foods, avoiding things that are gonna keep that stress response up, watching blood sugar, and then just some nutritional guidelines about what and when to eat, right? And then we're going to be looking at some supplemental support, so just some things that we aren't getting in our diet, so just things, nutritional supplements, and then things like adaptogens, which are really cool things that they're doing studies on right now. And it's if you have a high adrenal function, it kind of helps bring it down and kind of bring you back to normal. And then so if you give that to somebody with a low adrenal function, it's not going to take them lower. Guess what? It brings them back up to normal. So they're just it's a really cool product. It's in they're just called adaptogens, right? So it just kind of helps regulate the function of an organ. We're also looking at glandulars. So there are a few products that we have that actually have a gland from an animal, and in this case it's the adrenal gland, and so they grind it up and we give it to you, but that's kind of what we call a rennet gland. So if you got that wired and tired and just really in dealing with a lot of adrenal fatigue and the adrenals aren't doing so well, we want to rent this gland from this animal and support that while we rebuild yours, but then eventually pull you off of this so your body's not relying on this exogenous supplement, right? You do it too long, your body's like, hey, I don't need to make this stuff, we're getting it, and then we're back in adrenal fatigue, and now all of a sudden it's not doing its job again. That's kind of about it for the adrenal glands and adrenal fatigue. Next week we'll be talking with Jennifer on thyroid and fatigue, so hope you're not getting tired of all this fatigue talk yet. And she's going to be kind of talking and getting into oils that boost energy, right? So if nobody has any questions, I want to thank y'all for tuning in, and we'll see y'all next week here at Infinity Wellness Center for your Infinity Wellness Minute on Tuesday. Thank you much. Bye-bye.